into what the dynamic was in the adjacent county. My recommendation to the board is this is something, and I don't want to make, I don't want to exactly pass judgment, but I have the feeling here that this is the kind of thing when there is the kind of confusion, the question as to what kind of permits have been issued, what kind of permitting situation exists in another county with regard to this, while there are real economic consequences to this. And I don't want to misquote our transportation director, but he said this is the cost of doing business in this economic climate that we have. And it's something here that we do not want to get, should not get drawn into unless we can get clarity on this. Getting clarity on this issue, I think, is something that is not very likely. There are points of view, and my feeling is here the Board of Supervisors, certainly this supervisor at this point, is very uncomfortable about simply saying, yeah, we support this because of. We have to take into account here that this is a situation that's being dealt with by the Board of Supervisors in Sonoma County, and it is their baby, and it, of course, affects us just as everything happens in any adjacent jurisdiction affects us. When it comes to matters of this. So I strongly, I think here we need more information, and I would leave it to the CEO's office to proceed to get the kind of information that we need. But I've chased it about as far as I want to chase it without discovering that I'm going to be getting myself into something of a swamp of concerns and opinions.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Delaware.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I understand the sensitivity of taking an outright support position of a project that's being deliberated by our colleagues in another county, and that is, I think we would look askew of that happening to us. On the same token, though, the only thing that puts us in the other counties is on the other side of the river. It's right on the line. And that, in the impact to the community that's on our side of the line, I think, and I would be fully supportive of sending a letter to the Sonoma Board stating the issues of the impacts of not having the facility, how they go about it, and the mitigations that they put in place. That's up to them. It's in their jurisdiction. But not having something there, not having a supply, does have impacts to us. Has great impacts to us. And delineating those in a letter to them, encouraging them to take into account the impacts to our economy and to the jobs and to the environment down there from not having this in place and having to truck in all this material, that is something I think I'm very comfortable putting forward to them. Now, if that has to wait to get more information to intelligently write that letter, so be it, but I think it's clear what those impacts would be if the material isn't available from that site or in that area, and that letter in that more of a generic form can be written.
Thank you, Supervisor. Supervisor Pinches?
Yeah, I feel we have an obligation to take care of the interests of Mendocino County, whether they're, you know, whether it's on the borderline or whether it's 200 miles in another jurisdiction. If it impacts us, I feel that we have an obligation there. Going back to an issue about 10 months ago, the Humboldt County Board of Supervisors was quick to oppose the Dos Rios project, and they basically knew nothing about what the Dos Rios project was about. But that didn't stop them from opposing it. So I concur with Supervisor Delbar. It's not about a letter of support for the project or against the project, but it's just a letter stating, you know, hey, this is how, if you make a decision pro or against, how it will affect Mendocino County, and I think it's fair to state that.
Well, I think here, just as the district supervisor, I approached it from that particular perspective some months ago. There are real questions here about whether or not the facts as being brought forward are accurate. There are CEQA issues that are being examined by the Sonoma Board. They obviously are being affected also. So it's not as if it's a decision being made there that will affect Mendocino County, which is over only on the other side of the river. it has come from a very small number of self-interested individuals, number one. And secondly, there are interests in the same area that are concerned with the impact on the river, the impact on the coastal consequences of the removal. There are also issues with regard to the circumstances under which the current extractor is functioning. And you get different reports depending on who you talk to on this. In short, it's a can of worms or it's a swamp, whatever you want to talk about. And in terms of it being something we should obviously support, some might say in the community, I think many more in the community might say, we should be more concerned about the river. Remember, this was the river that we were going to put the water bags in and ship water to Southern California from. And immediately there was an upswelling of opposition up and down the coast on that. This is the same river, it's the same gravel extraction, it's the same arguments here that are being brought forward. So again, this is something that when I first looked at it, my inclination was to go further into it. The further I went into it, I found that it's a good bit more complicated than is being presented. Again, this is something that I feel we need to either take a closer look at or simply leave it to them to come to us and say, we want your support, or hear nothing at all.
Supervisor Smith.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I concur with the district supervisor. I think that to do the responsible job that we should do if we're going to weigh in some fashion is to review all the documents and then start, micromanaging for Sonoma County. I mean, in order to really understand all the issues, as Supervisor Colfax said, I mean, we would really have to review the documents. I think there were a lot of questions and points raised in just Mr. Hall's report, and I imagine the fact that this is now being delayed till May or June, that the paper trail on this is going to be voluminous. I mean, there are so many aspects and things that we would need to, I think, balance and counterbalance in order to weigh in and make a recommendation, even if it's for economic concerns of Mendocino County. We all have to balance economic concerns with environmental concerns when we are decision makers here. So I don't think we have the time, and it's not really our role to do that for Sonoma County. I think it's best at this point, absent lots of more additional information, that we really ought to wait and not take any position. I think we're going to have to invest. To do it responsibly, we're going to have to invest a lot more time in it, and I don't see that we really have the time to do that.
Supervisor Pinches.
Well, my biggest concern is, first of all, that's not a new project. They've been doing it for that operation for how many years? And whether they take the gravel extraction there or not, it's not going to lessen demand of the material over in that area. So if they deny the project, then the real impact is going to be on Mendocino County. The air quality of the truck traffic, because they'll have to come over here to get the aggregate. They're not going to take it over the hill to Highway 1 and up on Highway 1. They're going to come to Mendocino County, our inland, and either go into our rivers, which the only place we have gravel to get is in the Eel River, or the couple of rock quarries we have. And that just the air quality, the truck traffic is going to be a huge impact. Not talking about the truck traffic going through Boonville. That's where they would take it. So that's a major impact. I'm not talking about reviewing the project itself. I'm just talking about sending a letter saying, hey, this has an economic impact and an air quality